Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, G-R-A-N, group at edinarealty.com or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, three-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, David and Dan recap the Twins' three-game series against the Chicago White Sox. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson. After a brief respite away, missing a whole series of Twins baseball recap, we are back together. It's good to be here, my friend.
It is good to be here. Are you feeling better? You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm nearly 100%. So, folks, I did have the old COVID. It was my first time with the beast, and I appear to have survived. I'm a bigger guy, not gonna lie here, and so it was a little bit frightening. People in my demographic tend to not do so well with the COVID, but here we are, recovered and on the podcast once again.
I think I had you on like a minute by minute text, like, David, you feeling okay? How you feeling? How you feeling? Can you do the next podcast? How you doing? So I'm glad you made it through. And the Twins, in our absence, we should just really quickly mention they won 2 out of 3 against Baltimore, both in very dramatic fashion. It would have been a great podcast to do, but the timing wasn't going to work. You weren't feeling well yet. Hogs wasn't available. We thought about maybe just saying, Hogs, though, can you just do a one-man show? But we decided, I don't know if we're ready to give up that much editorial control to Hogs quite yet.
No, and who wants to edit 4 hours of material?
That's
Dan
true.
Thompson.
A couple things, though, to this series. So the Twins, they win 2 out of 3 against Chicago. And there was a stat, David, I've been thinking a lot about stats, about Buxton's triple play, which we'll talk about. I think Aaron Gleeman of The Athletic, has gone a little far in these statistics. He's been all over Emilio Pagan for his like -25 WAR or whatever it is. But there was something about Buxton, like the catch odds, or like basically that should have been a hit like 82% of the time or something. Like, I think they've gone a little far with all these stats, David, all these advanced metrics.
They need to take a step back and just sort of use the eye test, right? I don't want any stats. Just tell me if a guy is good by looking at him. Right, Dan Thompson?
Like, do we need an eye test to tell us that Emilio Pagan has been terrible since he became a Twin?
No. The number of stats you need to prove that out are pretty minimal, I'd say.
Oh my gosh. I don't even, anyway. I'm trying to think. Anything else here? The Tigers, by the way, we should all be clapping for the Tigers after they swept the Guardians in 4 to keep the Twins safely ahead of them. What the heck?
4.5 game lead now in the Central for the Twins, and not really because of anything the Twins have done particularly well, Dan Thompson. Just the Tigers decided, you know what? We're going to beat up on the Guardians, I guess, for 4 games. And none of them were close, Dan. Like, I was keeping a really close eye on those. I got to watch a couple of them, and the Tigers just looked like the better team, and that I don't think should be the case.
No, and you know what? Here, to this series, the Twins looked like the better team than the White Sox. They should have swept this series, David.
Yes, to that end, too. At the beginning of the year, we likely thought that this series, Dan, would be far more important than it has turned out to be.
And there's more coming, though. There's a lot more Twins-White Sox games down the road here, including just in a week or two. So anyway, we should probably get into this series. Let's go into the series recap.
Series recap.
Game 1, Dan, Twins win this one 6-3. Bundy's on the mound, goes 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Again, you'd prefer he get through more than 5, but if you're only going to get through 5, giving up 1 earned run's not too bad.
Yeah, he only had 58 pitches, too, which was kind of a surprise to me. Yeah, then they bring in Griffin Jacks, who actually pitched a couple innings, but Duffy looked good. Pagan actually got through an inning. He actually picked up the win here. Duran comes in and pitches the last inning. I mean, it was an exciting game. It was a fun game for the Twins.
There was moments that just felt like, okay, this seems like the Twins are, in fact, the better team. Obviously, the big play in this game, though, there's runners on first and second, and there's a high fly hit to deep right center. And Buxton cruises out and makes a catch, and then he throws it into the infield. And the thing is, when you're watching at home, you don't really get to see everything that's happened on the base paths, especially because obviously the cameras are on Buxton if he's going to make the play in center. Well, he does. He throws the ball in, and through all of this confusion, the long and short of it is the runners at second didn't tag, went to third, realized that Buxton had caught it, went back to second base, And then, and through all of this confusion, Urshela catches the ball that Buxton throws in, tags the runner, and then steps on second base for the first triple play in MLB history that scored 8-5. What are the odds? Like, it's so crazy that you can see things in baseball that have never happened before.
That was pretty cool. And I loved, my favorite part is that they still threw the baseball to first just to make sure that they got it. Like, even the players weren't totally sure what had happened with the base runners. I guess the confusion was that the lead runner for the White Sox, when Buxton looked down to kind of find where the wall was and such, he thought that the ball had landed. And so that's why he took off. But it worked out. And obviously it ended up being a huge play because the White Sox they were poised at least to take a lead there. And certainly if the ball drops, they take a lead. But even without, they still got runners in first and second with one out.
You have to go look at the replay, and I promise you're going to have to watch it more than once to figure out what happened.
A couple other things here. Arraez had a great game. He was 3 for 4. He has the RBI and extras that gives the Twins a lead. His average with runners on right now is 410. And also Jeffers has a nice play in the 9th inning. It actually got reviewed, but he threw out Adam Engel at second to end the 9th. It's just one of those things where you don't want the White Sox to have any extra opportunities there to win the game in 9.
Correct. And as we pointed out, like, teams love to run on the Twins. So anytime that the catchers manage to throw out a runner, it's a good day.
Absolutely. And then the Twins with a big outburst in the 10th. They score 4 runs, including a couple on Kirilloff's single to score a couple base runners. And then I think Duran has clearly shown he's the closer now for this baseball team.
Yes, thankfully, because honestly, Dan, how scared were you when you saw this? And if you had looked at the box score but not seen any of the numbers, and you just saw it went Duffy, Pagan, Duran, you might be somewhat relieved to be like, well, if they got to Duran, that must mean that things went well with Duffy and Pagan. But if you see those two names, Dan, I'm still very, very nervous anytime those two guys enter the game.
I'm less nervous now with Duffy. I am very nervous with Pagan anytime. And it was better. We saw him later in the series. We saw him appear earlier in the game, which I think was a better spot.
A better spot that with a worse result. But anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. Let's get to game 2, Dan Thompson.
Yeah, this was the game of the home runs here. Miranda hits a home run. Kepler hits one. Kirilloff hits 2. Polanco hits 1. And the Twins go 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, and they still win the game 8-2.
Doesn't even matter, Dan. Who cares about runners in scoring position if you're going to score all your runs on home runs anyway?
No, and Chris Archer was scratched from the start kind of late, though we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Josh Winder gets the start. He looks pretty good, all right? He goes 5 innings. He does give up 7 hits, but the damage is minimal, just 2 runs. And again, the Twins had a lead, when he left. I mean, it was 6-2 when he left the baseball game. And so feel pretty good when you can get that kind of start out of Josh Winder.
Yeah, and then after Winder goes Thielbar, Duffy, McGill, Cotton. And there was a bad rain delay that happened in like the bottom of the 8th. And I'm watching this game and I see it just start to pour. And I'm like, okay, I'm still recovering from COVID. I don't want to stay awake to watch the end of this game, but I happened to be awake anyway by the time they finished, so I got to watch Cotton finish out the game. But this is the first game in a while, I'd say, especially after that Guardian series, and the Orioles series was better, of course. This just felt like, okay, the Twins have it. Like, it felt like the first game of the Cleveland series where they won at 9-0. It just felt like, okay, they're pretty much untouchable. This game, they didn't really feel untouchable, but it just felt like they were in control start to finish.
I think anytime that the Twins are showing their muscle with a lineup like this, and the White Sox just did not really look able to be able to match that. The White Sox they only have like 60-something home runs this season. Their home run leader only has 10, right? The Twins have like 5 guys with at least 9. So it's just weird. It's weird to see how the Twins have kind of turned now into relying really much on their power.
Yeah, any other thoughts on game 2?
No, I think we should go on to game 3.
Game 3, Dan, this one, obviously the most frustrating. Twins lose this one 9-8 in extra innings. The box score, it's just so dumb. You look at it, and it's like every time the Twins score, the White Sox match it. The Twins bullpen was thinking in their minds, how can we make sure the White Sox finish out this inning tied with us?
It was frustrating, and I think the worst part of this game to me in some sense was Joe Ryan only going 4 innings and really not looking great. He threw 85 pitches across those 4 innings, and they just needed more out of him. The way that this bullpen is so thin right now, and you got to think, gosh, if Joe Ryan gives them 6 or 7, 8 runs is going to be enough.
8 runs should almost always be enough, Dan, even with this bullpen. My goodness.
So Gio Urshela had a home run late. Most of his home runs, I think it's a vast majority, Aaron Gleeman tweeted about this, another one of those random stats, have come with the game tied or close late. Like, it just feels like every hit Gio Urshela has, every home run anyway, is massive.
It always feels that way. And yet at the same time, I feel like there have been many instances where he's been up in big moments and he's just crashed and burned.
He's just up a lot in those moments.
It's never just like, okay, well, he struck out, right? It's like he hit into a double play. It's like either a home run or a double play, or, you know, whatever the worst outcome is, he either has the best or the worst. It's never middling with Urshela in big moments.
Again, he goes 3 for 5, 2 runs, 2 RBI. They were big spots here. He only leaves 2 guys on base. Luis Arraez goes 4 for 5. Jorge Polanco hits a couple home runs. Alex Kirilloff, he actually had grounded into almost one of those. It looked like a double play in the first inning. You want to talk about that play?
Yeah, so this is awkward. So if you watch this replay, and it turned out in the moment, it was a big deal because it allowed the Twins to score a run. But so Tim Anderson has the ball, and he's between first and second base, and he's running towards first with the intent to tag Kepler and then throw to first for the double play. But he doesn't have the ball in his glove. He has it in his hand, but he reaches out and tags Kepler with his glove that has no ball in it, and then proceeds to throw to first. And everybody's sort of, it's like a Matrix moment where you're like, was there a glitch here or what just happened? Was the ball actually supposed to be in his glove? So if you're new to the sport, you have to tag the guy with the ball. Like you can't just have it on your person and like kick him, right? Like that's not how it works in baseball. You have to tag him with the ball. I loved it. Like Glenn Perkins on the color commentary is like, I don't know that I've ever seen that. A guy tag with an empty glove with the ball in the other hand.
And Tim Anderson, like, you'd think he would know better in this situation. Like, surely all the instincts of playing baseball for almost 30 years that he's played, like, would say, you have to keep the ball in your glove before you touch the guy. But there you go. And obviously, it was a big play. The Twins had really struggled with runners in scoring position early in the games in this series. And so that was nice to finally get a run in that situation. And of course, it was Kirilloff, who was great all series. And it was a shame, gosh, the Twins just could not close this out, because a sweep would have meant a lot here. They haven't swept the team. Hogs and I were talking about this. They haven't swept the team since like late May.
Yeah, it just keeps going. It's like they can win a series, but yeah, they can't seem to close it out.
And at least they're doing that, right? Amid all of this, they've won 3 of their last 4 series. The Guardian series being the one there that they didn't handle. So, we have to go back a long way to even see when they were swept by anybody. So they're in every series, they're in seemingly every game, and that's what makes this team. It's so maddening because they could have so many more wins here if they just had 2 more, maybe even 1 more competent arm in the bullpen.
It does bode well, though, Dan, that if they get to the postseason, they'll at least win a game.
Well, let's hope so, and hopefully they've got some arms back by then or some trades done. Anyway, we should move into our segments.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I'm gone for a couple of episodes. The whole world, Dan, just falls apart. I hate this. So Dan took Polanco, scored 18 points. It was a very good series for Polanco. I took Buxton. He had 4 points. Hogs, for the listeners, took Correa. He had 2 points. So that does give Mr. Thompson the victory. Dan now sits at 9 wins on the season. I'm still in the lead at 11 wins. And the listeners are kind of falling behind, Dan. 6 wins for the listeners.
David, you give the season standings, but you didn't give, I would argue, the more important stat here, the season points scored. Will you please?
Well, it doesn't matter, Dan.
I think it should matter. I have 152. You have 131. The listeners have 114. I think that I am clearly winning.
How are you? No. Okay. Again, no. It's just like in any postseason sport, Dan. It doesn't matter how much you win an individual game by. It's all about the record. Who's got the W's?
Run differential should be the determining factor in the standings, David. We should run up the score. I will be banging that drum until I'm ahead in the season wins, which will come, right? As it always does, right? The numbers even out.
No. But anyway, here we go into Beast versus Bench.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
Begrudgingly, Dan, I am going to give Polanco the Beast. I think that your pick is also a very good pick, but I think Polanco really deserves some credit for this series. Performed very well, played a very big role in the Twins' victories.
Do you remember the time in Chicago when he hit a home run from one side of the plate and then the other? And I had to check for game 3 because I wasn't able to watch the entire game that it wasn't a flip, but they were both from the left side. I was really hoping that one of them was from the other side.
Does it look to you like Polanco's stance, especially from the left side, is a bit more open?
Oh, yeah, he's trying to hit a home run like every time up, it feels like up there. He's just muscling the ball into the corner.
it looks a little garlic-esque from the other side of the plate, right? Like where it looks like Polanco could walk out to the pitcher's mound. Like that's how he's lined himself up.
Well, and you never know after a guy comes off the injured list, like there are probably some tweaks or some almost restarts in some sense to their baseball. So maybe that's part of it. I'll have to pay a little bit more attention to his stance next series.
So who do you have as your beast?
I went with Kirilloff. I really, neither of us picked Arraez, who had a huge series really too. His average is back up to 354. But I went with Kirilloff. He had the 2 home runs in game 2 that were so important. He had 2 hits in game 1. In game 3, he was a little less of a factor. By the way, after he came out, after kind of an awkward collision at first base, the Twins said he's okay. Celestino came in and pinch ran for him. But Alex Kirilloff has come around. His average is up to 263, and he's looking like a core piece in this lineup.
It was so funny how much we talked about that left field position and like who the permanent fill-in should be and who earned that spot. And my goodness, Larnach came up and he did it for a bit. Like he sort of looked like he was going to be the guy, and then he had to move to the IL. Kirilloff was mashing in AAA, so the Twins basically were forced to bring him up because you can't leave a guy who's being that productive at AAA in AAA. Now, granted, people will say, well, hang on, have you seen Jake Cave as of late for the Saints? Just absolutely mashing. No, not the same thing. Not the same thing. Very different. But and the Kirilloff Cave, that goes back to the postseason, our discussions about those two.
That's right.
Those
it's
two
a controversial start in right field.
Yes, but anyway, all of that to say, Kirilloff does look like this time it's going to stick, and obviously he's figured something out with that wrist injury. Again, I'm convinced he called Cruz, and he's like, how do you break it like you did to make it so it just is better?
He said, I want you to just twist my wrist, Nelson, as hard as you can here. And something popped and felt better. Who'd you got on your bench?
I'm going to give it to Buxton.
Yeah.
Honestly, this was tricky, though. This was hard because a lot of people had very good outings, but we really needed Buxton to have some good games, especially in game 3. And he went 0 for 5 with 4 guys left on base. And those are runs that can't be left on the table when you're losing a game 9-8 because your bullpen can't keep it together. So again, I think obviously this loss is more on the bullpen. And I was hesitant to give it to Buxton because he was productive in game 1, but he went 0 for 4 in game 2 and 0 for 5 in game 3. So for that, I got to give Buxton the old bench moniker.
Yeah, I went with McGill. No other choice was as obvious. Maybe Pagan for just being generally awful. But McGill giving up that 2-run home run to tie the game in the 8th inning was just brutal there. Because he's a guy who they are counting on to be able to come back from the injured list and make it so that they don't need to trade for another relief pitcher. And the fact that he just wasn't able to lock down that 8th inning because they were set up. He locks that down. Duran comes in. You've got your 8th and 9th inning guys there, and it just didn't work out that way.
No, it is fun, though, to have a couple of Twins pitchers who are throwing 95, 96 plus. Like McGill was hitting 98 on the old radar gun, which is just fun because how often have we had that in Twins history of guys who are throwing that much heat?
No, not often. And I hope that this is just a blip. This is not a Pagan fall apart like has been done. And hopefully he's able to recover, but they really do need him to come back strong.
With that, let's go on to Rocco's Rewind.
Rocco's Rewind.
A couple of series ago, after Pagan had pretty much given the Twins L's in the Cleveland series, Rocco comes out and he says, you know what? We're not going to use Pagan in high leverage situations for a bit here. Now, I have yet to see Rocco not use Pagan in a high level situation, so I don't know how much we can really trust what Rocco is saying. Now, here's the thing. Here's the question. Is it low leverage in game 3 when Pagan comes in? Probably. It's 4-2 Twins. But the thing is, it still felt high leverage because Pagan still imploded. Like, apparently it doesn't matter. Like, doesn't matter how high or low the stakes are for Pagan. He's going to pitch terribly just as a natural act of what he does, Dan.
I think you said it pretty well there in the sense that because Pagan came in, it becomes a high leverage situation, right? Because even if it's 10-2, you're thinking, oh, well, it's going to be 10-6 pretty soon here. This is a ball game again. So I think it is more about Pagan's presence.
The first guy to come in an 8-0 situation is high leverage because he's going to give up 6 runs.
Well, because again, who else do you go to? Like, you're like, crud, Joe Ryan only gave us 4. I guess we got to go to Pagan in the 5th here because who else? We can't have 5 innings of high leverage situations. Like, so yes, I think that this is not necessarily Rocco not using Pagan in low leverage or whatever. Rocco's right. I think Rocco's sticking to his theory here. He just didn't have anybody, and it was unfortunate that Ryan couldn't go more.
Agreed. Okay, what do you have for Rocco, Dan?
I'm going to look a little bit into the past here. There was a time when I was doubting Jose Miranda's value here and that perhaps they should send him back down and give him a little time to work on his defense. I will say this. I think Rocco was right in sticking with Miranda, and not just because of his bat, which has been fantastic, really, for the last month. He doesn't have an error since May, which I think is pretty dang impressive for as much as he's been playing third and first. I think he's looked really good. He obviously came up with a big hit in the last series against Baltimore. So I think he might just be the regular third baseman next season.
So some people have talked about using Urshela as trade bait so that Miranda could play third full time.
But then who's
Any
going to
thoughts
get
on
all
that?
those big hits in the late and close situations that Gio Urshela seems to come up with?
Hard to say, Dan. I'm not sure. I'm just saying it's floated out there that now is the time to let go of Urshela.
I think that would be a moment where you are pushing in your chips, to use a tortured poker metaphor, in the sense that it would be really nice to have both of those guys for this season. I would hate for them to have to give up one of them in order to get a relief pitcher. Let's go forward into our Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
So I think for me, it has to be the 4 runs in the top of the 10th in game 1, just because it was nice to not have that sort of not again feeling, not be there after the Cleveland series. And granted, some of that taste was washed out of my mouth with the Baltimore series, with the Twins doing 4 walk-offs in a row, losing 2 in walk-offs and then winning 2 in walk-offs. Weird stats, certainly. But it was just nice to sort of have that, okay, they are going to win this game. They just scored 4 runs in the 10th.
Well, first of all, I was not feeling like they were going to win this game because they scored the 4 runs in the 10th. But that moment was nice, just to tag onto yours, because I'm out on a dock. We're out in Iowa. We're out in Okoboji, Iowa right now. And I'm looking up and there's fireworks going as this game. And I'm listening to this game and I'm thinking, first of all, there's still no dragon firework. So clearly, like, technology has not come far enough. But it was really fun to be able to have that distraction in my ears so that I didn't have to hear the loud booming noises of the fireworks, David, at about 10:15.
Yes, it was a good
Are you
game.
a fireworks guy? Do you like fireworks?
No.
No.
So I've done that's not exactly true. Like if you're with family or friends and you're setting off fireworks, that's a good time. If I have to go park 6 miles away and then get there at 4 p.m. to find a good spot and sit on lumpy ground with the blankets we bought in Mexico and like just wait for the things to finally start and then elbow people as I'm leaving after 22 and a half minutes of entertainment, that like, Dan, there's a lot of other things I can do in 22 and a half minutes that I would rather be doing than watch fireworks. And it's just too much, Dan. It's too much. So when my child is old enough to appreciate it, I will take them. But Dan, I am pretty happy with this. I think it's a 15-year streak I got going where I have put no effort into making sure I see fireworks on the 4th of July.
But one of the great moments in The Sandlot, David, is the fireworks night where they can play the night game. Like, that would be the baseball. Yeah. Anyway, when you can marry baseball with fireworks, sign me up. But aside from that,
yes.
My moment, David. There's no good transition there. Is the triple play. David, the Twins turned a triple play that had never happened before. And I remember the last time they turned a triple play where Miguel Sano had like predicted it right against the Yankees, where he'd like had a premonition that he was going to get the ball hit to him at third, and then he threw to second and threw to first, like the traditional triple play. Which, does that ever actually happen? Like, I feel like all the triple plays are weird fluky plays now.
Often they are. I mean, just because things have to be so perfect for it to be that sort of, aesthetically pleasing third to second to first, and you have to have a real slow guy at the plate. Like, there's so many factors that need to work in your favor for that to happen that, yeah, more often than not, the triple plays are going to be funky where there's a missed tag, or the guy tags up and he shouldn't have, or he didn't tag up and he needed to, just like what happened in this game.
Anyway, I long for the 5-4-3 triple play.
Well, Dan, you managed to work in Sano, so I'm going to let you you start us off for Mauer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Mauer's musings.
So Miguel Sano, if people have been paying attention, has begun a rehab assignment at like
nobody's paying attention. Dan.
Like the lowest level of baseball. He's like it's like playing pickup games with like the Twins like trainers down in Fort Myers or something like this. He still went 0 for 4 or something in his first game with some ground outs and pop outs. But first of all, when Sano returns, because he inevitably is going, he's gonna be back, David. Who gets sent down?
Someone on the AA roster, Dan.
But they can't, like he's only got like 20 days or something until like he basically has to be able to come back. I think I don't know all the rules, but like it's not as simple as, they can't like just say, well, Miguel, we're going to just keep you at AA for the rest of the year. You can't do that.
Why not? It's the last year of the contract. There's an option that I'm quite certain the Twins are not going to be picking up, Dan.
But like, okay, but can you answer my question seriously? Like, what's going to happen here with Miguel Sano? He's going to come back to the major league roster. He has to.
This is serious.
He's got 40 home runs to hit, David, to meet my prediction.
I feel like what's the guy's name in Spider-Man? You're serious?
Well, because
you think Miguel Sano is coming back to this roster and he's gonna send someone else back down?
I think so. I think out of necessity. So
Who?
I'm gonna say that Kyle Garlick gets removed from this roster and Miguel Sano comes
and they're
back.
gonna put Miguel Sano in right field.
No, they're going to rotate guys around because they're going to get Larnach back at some point again, too. Like, this roster's getting crowded, David, and Miguel Sano is the piece that doesn't quite fit.
Oh, you are delusional. There is no way. There is no way this happens. Next time you're in town, Dan, next time that you are in town, if Miguel Sano makes a start on this roster, I will buy every beer we drink at that Twins game. Okay? I will buy every beer we drink at that Twins game. He's going to
make more starts for the Twins this season. He's going to be back. He's going to be
maybe
a contributing
if 8 guys
member.
get long COVID, like there's like there's no
you
chance
shouldn't be
this
making
is
long
happening.
COVID jokes right just after your ordeal.
All the more reason to point out how ridiculous this is that I'm willing to make the joke, Dan.
Maybe Rocco will go down. He'll sacrifice a pitcher here of his precious 13, and he will bring in Miguel Sano to be that 14th position player on the roster.
Folks, I got to be honest. I don't know if he's serious or this is just some deep sarcasm here. I think Dan Thompson truly believes that Miguel Sano is going to come up and take someone's spot off this roster.
I think it's more because the rules say that he has to. They can't just. He
what
cannot be.
They could outright him. Who's going to pick him up? That's what I want.
So that's what you're saying. So you're saying that they're just going to outright him, and that nobody would want it. Somebody will take Miguel Sano.
If there's some requirements that require him to be on the major league roster, they will cut him loose faster, Dan, than I called my doctor once I got COVID.
I don't think that they're going to. I think Miguel is going to start to play well here when he gets back up to facing real pitching again. And
that's even more delusional. It's crazy enough to say that you think he's going to come back on the roster and somebody else is going to sit back down, but then to say he's going to come up and be productive. Dan,
we got to move on here. You have another injury list question here. Go ahead.
So I got to collect my thoughts here. Okay. So how much does Archer going on the IL really matter at this point? Because honestly, I think it probably helps a little bit as far as clarity, as far as the rotation is concerned.
So in the sense that you think Winder should be in this rotation more or less permanently?
Winder and Smeltzer, yes, I think that those two guys have proven themselves to get this shot, and Archer, both Winder and Smeltzer have a better chance of going deeper in the game than Archer has proven to.
I think that's a good point because it does bring the Archer longevity question to a head. Like at some point, if they've got somebody else who can give them 6 innings and only give up 2 runs, that's going to be better than the guy who can give up 2 runs in 4 innings. And they've got Bailey Ober, who is going to be throwing and maybe will be back on this team soon too.
Yeah, well, and Maeda, hopefully come August, we'll see Maeda back on the mound, potentially out of the bullpen, unlikely a starting spot, but there's going to be a limited number of slots, and Archer, while he has been effective in some outings, I'm not sure with how decimated this bullpen has been, how much time can you give a guy who's only going to give you 4 innings every time he's on the mound?
And maybe that becomes his max in the sense that this is his time with the Twins and he's going to go somewhere else and somebody else will be able to give him more time because the Twins just are running out of roster spots. If all those guys come back that you mentioned and they maybe trade
Sano.
Right,
yeah.
and they trade for a reliever. I mean, you look at the list of the relievers, and I know that these guys haven't been great, but like, do you cut Luis Pagan? Is there finally a moment where they can just say, "I'm sorry, we're going to cut bait"?
I'd be surprised because he has proven himself to be effective, but they're going to have to figure out his usage before he returns.
But when has he been effective?
He's had a few good outings where he's gotten 4 or 5 innings that have been productive at least.
But his ERA is like 5.34 right now, and he's been really bad for the last few outings. Is he gonna get better? Is that what they're hoping for?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, Bundy's got a 4.5 ERA, and I think that there's a spot for him on this roster. I just think they have to figure out a clean way to use him.
All right. Well, let's move forward here. Next segment.
Series grades.
Time to grade this series, Dan. And I love this. I love this when you give a lower grade than I do. I'm going to give them a B. I thought 2 out of 3 is great. And honestly, part of this might be me just riding the high of Cleveland getting swept by Detroit, but I'll take 2 out of 3 against the White Sox when the Cleveland Guardians lose 4 out of 4 to the Tigers.
I think it's, for me, the C+ that I'm giving them is because of the missed opportunity for a sweep here. And we've seen so many missed opportunities lately with the Guardians, not so much with the Orioles series, because I felt like they stole the 2 games that they got in an exciting fashion, obviously. But this one just felt like it should have been a sweep, and there's not a lot of excuse for me.
Fair enough. Well, let's keep going down Herbie's headline.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So Dan, I've been reading the headlines and I've been looking around baseball, see what's happening, and I find myself often, after bedtime, after the kiddo's asleep and the Twins games are over, I like to flip on games from the West Coast. So I find myself watching a lot of Padres, a lot of Dodgers, and a lot of Angels, Dan, when the Angels are at home. And here's the thing. How can the Angels be as bad as they are when you have Mike Trout and Ohtani playing the way that they're playing? The Angels are currently 37-45. Mike Trout has a 3.8 WAR. Ohtani has a 3.9 WAR and a 2.68 ERA. If you forgot, he's also a pitcher. The A's are always better than they should be. The Angels are always worse than they should be. And the Twins' highest WAR, to put it in perspective, their highest WAR player currently is Arraez at 3.0, almost a full point lower than Trout and Ohtani. What's going on in LA, Dan?
If I had an answer to this question, David, I think somebody would be hiring me on this Angels. This doesn't make any sense. They have not been good since Socha was their manager. It just shows you that baseball is just not a sport about a couple of guys. You cannot be carried by 2 great baseball players, apparently.
Yeah, it's just so surprising, and you're so sad for a guy like Trout, who has really been the face of the game for quite a few years, and he just can't seem to find success with this team.
And I don't know if you can be the face of a game when you just don't make the playoffs. Like, it's almost like you have to call a guy like Mookie Betts the face of the game, or, you know, somebody who's actually won some of these games. Even, you know, Cody Bellinger, in some sense, is almost more the face of the game than Mike Trout, and it's too bad because Mike Trout is such a generational talent.
And we'll see you tomorrow night.
Puckett's Picks.
David, I love these moments when I get to pick last because I love to leave my spot blank on the spreadsheet because I just don't know who I'm going to pick yet.
Yeah, so the upcoming Rangers series, the listeners are taking Polanco, which you can't blame them after the series that Polanco just had. I'm going to go ahead and take Correa because if Correa is available, I'm definitely taking him. That's the way this game works, Dan. So who you got?
David, I'm going to throw another stat at you if you're ready here. So
I'm braced myself, Dan, edge of my seat.
So the Twins, and I would credit this, by the way, to not having Miguel Sano, that this is not a more balanced statistic. But the Twins have been mashing right-handed pitching with all of their lefties. They've had the 6th most at-bats versus right-handed pitching, and they have the 4th best OPS in Major League Baseball against right-handed pitching. And I think a big reason for that is Max Kepler. But I'm not going to pick Max Kepler. I'm going to pick Alex Kirilloff because he's been excellent so far. So I'm going to stick with Kirilloff.
No Buxton, no Arraez taken.
I just... now you mentioned Arraez, I'm kind of doubting myself. The last couple of series, Arraez has been great, but Kirilloff has outperformed him, I think, in each of those series. So I'm going to stick with the guy who hits home runs.
Fair enough. I can't fault you, Dan. So with that, folks, again, we just want to apologize for missing the last episode. There were just too many variables to overcome. Hopefully, I have returned to health, it seems, and Dan Thompson is making his way back to Spokane so we can once again get into a more regular routine up until the All-Star break. And then after the All-Star break, you'll have a little bit more Hogs and Dan, which always worries me because I never know what they're going to say about me. I know there's going to be things said that are just not true. Just don't believe them, folks, is what I'm trying to tell you.
You don't even always get the raw cut, David. It's sometimes we're pretty stinging in our criticisms of you when you're not there to defend yourself.
Not surprising. Well, Dan, I'm going to try and catch my breath here, Dan. So can you send us out?
I sure can. Well, folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on Twitter at Men for the Win. You can find our Men for the Win Facebook page. You can also find us on YouTube. Be sure you've subscribed to the podcast in any of those places so you are notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating, that would be great. Thank you for listening. And as always, go Twins.
That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, 2 avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.